Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm very excited for this video because I am so excited to finally watch the Hamilton Proshot. After seeing, obviously I've seen it live. For those who didn't know, I've seen it in the West End. And they brought the Proshot closer because of coronavirus. So finally watched that. I watched it 3 times when it came out on the day. 3 times. I think it was definitely worth it. I'm definitely going to be watching it again. But I thought after watching it, I had a really bad voice break then. I thought, because I've watched it, I thought I'd give my opinions on it. And obviously because this is the original Broadway cast, with Lin-Manuel Miranda as Hamilton, the person who wrote all the music and everything. So yeah, let's dive in to Hamilton Proshot. I'm gonna break it down into categories. So I'm gonna talk about performances, and then I want to talk about the camera work, and then I want to talk about lighting, and then my overall thoughts and opinions. So we're gonna dive into the first performance, Lin-Manuel Miranda. That's such a mouthful to say, as Hamilton. Wow. I can see why he wrote it, with himself playing Hamilton in mind. It suits him really well. I actually watched the, one of the documentaries that they made. They made a few documentaries about the story, of how Hamilton came to be on Broadway and everything. And there was an interview, with I can't remember his name, but there was a guy who said that, Lin wasn't the best performer when the show started, and he was still, sort of finding the character. But I'm glad he did, because, he was so different to the Hamilton that I saw. Lin, I think he got very emotional very quickly. I think maybe because he has the thought process of writing everything behind it, and he knows exactly what he wanted to write and everything. But his performance as Hamilton was so good. It was so impressive, and I was like, oh, he was a really good Hamilton. Let's dive into Philippa Sue as Eliza. Oh, Eliza. I think Eliza in general, she's just such a good character. She got some really good songs, and she's a really decent character. But Philippa Sue as Eliza was phenomenal. She blew me away. Pardon the pun, you can blow us all away. But yeah, Philippa Sue definitely, she was amazing as Eliza. And I was surprised at how many little details there were. I've seen a lot of videos online of these details of the show saying, like, this was actually this, and she was here watching this because... but the bit that got me was the bit right at the end where there's this whole massive debate about it. I don't know what your guys' opinions are, but at the end of the show, the last song happens, and Eliza takes a breath, and she goes, and there's this debate whether is it her final breath, or is it her walking through the fourth wall, seeing the massive audience, and being like, the story's finally been told, and people are recognizing Hamilton for who he is. My opinions, I watched an interview that Philippa Sue did, and she said it meant something different each time. Sometimes it was her as Eliza, just going, at the end. Sometimes it was her being Philippa, as, being tired at the end of the show. So I don't really have it's definitely this, she said it's something different each time, so I respect that. That's your choice. Let's move on to this. He's a bit of a side character, but I think he definitely gets a mention for a great performance. Anthony Ramos as John Lawrence slash Philip Hamilton. He's so funny. I wasn't expecting him to be that funny, but he was hilarious. The facial expressions on Anthony's face were so good. It's that bit in Satisfied, right at the start, he goes, all right, that's what I'm talking about. And it's so funny. His comic timing was so good. Definitely, I can see the work behind, you know, the character, and that he's put a lot of effort into it. So much stage presence. I'm not going to say he's a lead character, you know, but for the character, because both his characters die. Obviously, they die, but, you know, they die pretty quickly. But for more of a side character, he really takes centre stage in his scenes, and he's so good and funny and really knows the characters that he's playing. His death, both as John Lawrence and Philip Hamilton, made me so emotional. I didn't really actually know John Lawrence died until I went to see the show, because they don't do it in a song really. Well, sort of yes and no. They have kind of a bit of an actual talking scene. Eliza says there's a letter for Hamilton from John Lawrence's father, and she reads it to Hamilton, and John Lawrence sings the story of tonight, and I was like, oh, you got me. And then in Act 2, Philip Hamilton gets shot in a duel, and they have a whole song about it, and it's so sad, and the way it's done is just, oh. Right, let's move on to Leslie Odom Jr. as Aaron Burr. So different, again like Lynn, so different to the Aaron Burr I had in London. Definitely, Leslie was so subtle with his thoughts and his subtext. The Aaron Burr I had, I can't remember his name. I wish I had my programs over there somewhere. But the Aaron Burr I had, he was more like big about his actions and the way that he was acting as Aaron Burr. But Leslie in the Proshot, he definitely relied on his voice and less of his face. He, at certain moments, I could see, you know, the thoughts in his eyes. It's that bit in the election of 1800 where Hamilton says that he's going to vote for Thomas Jefferson, and Leslie's reaction as Aaron Burr was so, subtle, but yet you could see the whole thought process. And I thought that was what was really good about his Aaron Burr, is that he didn't rely on these big gestures and, you know, making things so clear. The subtext and thought process behind it was so good, you didn't need, oh, I'm so sad, la la la. You know, it was so thought out and well planned. I was like, oh, he was meant to play Aaron Burr. Plus, he has a lisp. I didn't know that. I've got a bit of a lisp with my S sound. I thought that was such good representation for someone with a lisp being a lead character. You know, some people might be put off by that, but I was like, thank you, that was so good. And lastly, although he has 9 minutes of stage time, Jonathan Groff as King George III is phenomenal. I thought when I saw it in London, King George was immediately my favourite character because he was so funny. But Jonathan Groff was born to play King George. He was amazing. So funny. Incredibly funny. He was the funniest character. For that 9 minutes that he has of stage time, he makes it so good. His voice is amazing, his acting is amazing, his facial expressions are so on point with everything he's saying. And his British accent is actually quite good. I was like, obviously I've listened to it on the cast recording, but seeing the Proshot with him actually doing a British accent, seeing his British accent, it was so good. It was so good. It was funny, and especially his bit in the Reynolds pamphlet where he goes on stage for a Reynolds pamphlet, and it's so funny. It was so funny. Right, let's move on to camera work. For me, the camera work on this Proshot was probably one of the best pieces of camera work I've seen on any Proshot. I saw a lot of things that, even though I've seen it live, I didn't see. You got views of parts of the show that no audience member would see, and it was phenomenal. The way that they managed to capture everything and really tell the story through the camera, it was phenomenal for me. It was really stand out, the camera work. We're going to move on to lighting now. I think the lighting in the show is so well thought out and so cleverly designed to tell the story. And especially at points in Act 2, it really helps get, especially Hamilton, like Alexander Hamilton's thought process and, you know, everything that's going on. It really makes it come through. Especially that bit there's the bit in Hurricane, where all the ensemble kind of got pieces of props and stuff, and they're all they're all holding on to it as if it's frozen in time, and the lighting's like this water sort of thing, and it's so cool and it's so well thought out. And just the lighting in general for this show, it's so carefully planned out, and it really has such a big effect in every time it's used. I think the standout bit for me in the lighting is in Yorktown. They have a dance break. Say dance break. It's more of an instrumental break where they do movement. It's not really dance to it. And they all kind of lift their guns up, spin around, and go like that with their guns, you know, when you aim a gun. And they all kind of land in these spotlights, and it's so clever. It's so cool. And I loved it when I saw it live. That was amazing. And we're going to move on to my overall enjoyment now. I've enjoyed this Proshot so much. I think, for me, it's one of my favourite Proshots that's out there available. If you don't have Disney+, I would so recommend getting it so you can watch Hamilton. Because if you love Hamilton anyway, you'll be so happy just to watch the Proshot, because it makes you, you know, you can actually go and see it again. Or if you haven't seen it, and you get the original company. But yes, I've really enjoyed this Proshot a lot. And I think it was really clever, really well thought out, and I'm definitely going to be watching it so many more times. I hope you've enjoyed this video, everyone. Let me know your thoughts of the Hamilton Proshot down below, any favourite things you've had. Make sure you give this video a like if you enjoyed it. If you haven't subscribed, where have you been? Subscribe to my channel and watch all my other videos. It'd be so greatly appreciated. Until then, I'm going to go have a cup of tea, and I hope you guys have a lovely day. Have a lovely day, guys, and I'll see you later. Hey, hey, I do, I do, I do, I do.